Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Life of the Lost. I'm Sam.
And I'm Megan.
And this week's episode is sponsored by BrownLab Media. BrownLab Media is a creative community helping to promote and create original content, personal brands, businesses, or anything media related by people of color. The website is www.brownlabmedia.com. So if you have a chance, feel free and check them out.
Today, my goal is to interview you guys a little bit in regard to that, the business side of Supay. Just because I'm curious about it, I would love to know more about that.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely love to share.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool too, because I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, I wonder if maybe one day we should have somebody kind of interview us, because we're kind of always talking to people or always talking about other things. And so, yeah, that's actually a good idea.
Yeah, definitely. And I've been thinking about this for a while. I have so many ideas, and sometimes I feel like that distracts me from like the things that I'm doing already. Right, with Active Variable and BrownLab Media, and then now I have other things that I'm working on, and so it takes a little bit of time away from the core work that I'm already doing. But I still think that it's important to be creative outside of that and keep working on coming up with different things. Well, one thing that I want to know from you guys is like, how did that all get started? Like for you guys building your own brand and starting the apparel, did you have a website in mind right away, or did you guys want to like start through social media first? Like, I'm just curious about that. And also, I think another thing that we can do would be like playing some kind of video game. I know, Sam, you play video games, so maybe we can get a game and we can live stream that. So in case there's any fans from your end or my end, they can watch us play a game and then like submit questions or anything like that. So then that way it's a little bit more interactive. But just another idea that I had been thinking about for a while.
Yeah, just tell me when and where, and I'm super stoked for that. Yeah, definitely something that piques my interest.
It's like an excuse to play video games.
Yo, for real.
Yeah, no, that's the way I see it. It's content at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. So definitely we'll follow up with that for sure. Maybe when let me know your schedule and we'll set that up.
Definitely. But so with your website, your apparel, what's the story of that? How did that get started for you guys?
Do you want to start? Because you kind of started everything in the very beginning, and I was out of it for the first 3 years.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So let's take it back to the beginning. I don't remember the specific year. What would you like?
It was 2015.
2015. Yeah. So in 2015, I was playing music. I was a musician. I played the guitar in a metal band, and we were playing shows. And that was around the time that things were actually picking up, and we were actually playing shows like in Philadelphia and in Long Island. So it was really like a cool experience for me. And I was thinking about how I could utilize another part of me, which is like design and just apparel. I was always interested in apparel. So along the lines of me in this band, I was like, what kind of apparel could I make that's part of my identity that I could, I don't know, just create. And yeah, so then I stumbled across like, Peruvian culture and where I came from. I had to go back to my roots in terms of my thinking process. And I ended up doing some research and finding the name Supay. And I really loved that it was like a god of the underworld. And I'm like super into, me personally, I'm kind of a quiet guy. I'm not always the loudest one in the room. I'm kind of, at the outskirts, just observing and waiting until the perfect time to kind of introduce myself. So that's kind of where it all started. And I remember kind of thinking about how I should go about this. Like, should I be t-shirts? Should it be, I don't know, should I just go straight for like other things like sweatpants or other things like that? And yeah, and then I just decided to do t-shirts. I sat on 3 t-shirts, 3 different designs. One was centered around the logo at the time, the Supay logo. The other one was kind of a tribalistic interpretation of the Supay god. And the other one was a Raiders inspired t-shirt. And I decided on those three and released them. And it did really well. And I was really impressed. And then a dip in the train because my band we kind of parted ways, and it was a huge it was a hard time. It was a hard time because I was really invested in it. I really wanted to continue with them, and it just didn't work out. So after that, I kind of consolidated my resources and figured out everything, and just decided at that point in my life, Supay wasn't a direction that I was able to go in at that time. And I kind of put it on the back burner. And fast forward to...
Yeah, I think it was, I don't remember when it was, but I remember we were talking, we were kind of, we were playing soccer, we were hanging out for a bit, and I had literally like a little mental breakdown, and I was kind of like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I love drawing and I love design, but this was kind of right when I moved to New York City, and I was like, it's like, you know the things you like, but you're not necessarily putting everything together. And I think for me, I always looked up to Sam for doing Supay and like doing these like tribalistic things, because for me in my senior project, it was crazy. It was just this big, huge, elaborate project. So it was like I used laser printing on this fabric, and it was all these Peruvian designs based on the sun god Inti. It was really deep, so I could go into it forever. But I really loved doing that, and so I kind of saw similarities with that and with what Sam was doing previously. And so we were just talking a little bit, and I was like, maybe we should start that up again. Like, I don't really know. And Sam was kind of at a crossroads in his life, so he was like, I don't know if I have time for that. And I was like, well, I just got to New York. Like, let's do this. Like, I have all the time for it. Like, can I help? What can I do? And so Sam kind of handed some of it or most of it over to me, and I would always go to him and be like, okay, is this okay to post? Because, this is something that he built the foundation of it, so I don't want to come off any kind of way, and here am I have no idea like anything about business, about a website, about any of those things. Like, I studied that in school, but I never put that to anything. And so kind of coming into this, I was just kind of walking a little rocky road, I think, because I didn't want to, I didn't want to hurt what he was doing. And for me, I think I'm a little bit more like, I'll show you the back end of stuff. I'm not afraid to kind of screw up all the time. You've seen like a lot of my, right before we launched, I did like the launch mistakes, the 5 launch mistakes. We didn't have lights, or we didn't have a nice camera. We didn't have anything. And so kind of looking back at that, it's a little cringy. I'm like, I can't believe I was just chilling in the park, just like doing this, or I can't believe I was downstairs in the gym. But I think I like that. And so just kind of showing people the back end of things and like how we do it. And I want to do everything the right way. Well, like the right way. So I was like looking online, do we trademark? Do we hire an attorney? And so that's kind of what came first before restarting the website. It was looking back, hiring the attorney, finding a small business attorney, looking at what that meant as far as trademarking, as far as publishing it somewhere. You have to publish it legally in a newspaper. So there were so many steps to all of this stuff. And then came all the designs and just going back and forth. So that's kind of how it started.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good. But it's a lot. Right? It's a lot of work. And I think the cool thing is that you guys brought it back to life, right? It got started in 2015. And like you said, it was successful, and then went down a little bit, but then you picked it back up. And now to me, it seems like now, it's successful. Like, you guys are, consistently putting out content, and you have people that are following you guys. So to me, that's success at the end of the day. We just, our goal is to, as creators, is to have something that can bring some kind of value and like a positive distraction to people. And I think we jumped the gun a little bit. I guess it was my fault. I didn't even introduce myself.
Yeah, point.
And you guys need to introduce yourselves too for my people that listen. But my name's Edwin Monroy, and I have the Active Variable podcast, where I interview healthcare professionals for now, and I share their stories and how they found the healthcare field and what made them pursue that, and if they face any obstacles just that way we can learn from those lessons. And my goal is to reach a younger demographic of people that are still kind of lost and not sure what to do. And the goal with these stories is to get them a little bit curious or plant some seeds in regard to the healthcare field. So I've had like Zarin Scales, who's a physician assistant. I've had personal trainers. I've had athletic trainers. So that's where I'm at with the Active Variable podcast. But in general, the brand, my goal is to bring together video games, athletic training, and health. And the reason I brought video games in is because I like playing video games. I grew up playing video games. I'm a huge fan, mostly sports games, and now more recently into like first-person shooters, just because I can play that with more friends and family. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of people like the sports games. I realize that, but I brought that in because I like it, and so I think that there's a space where athletic training can come in and help gamers, professional gamers, with their health. I do think that like living a sedentary lifestyle is sitting, right? And as a video gamer, you're sitting, like that's your work, that's your life, and unfortunately that's a sedentary lifestyle that you're living because of your work. And so my goal is to bring in athletic training so that through my expertise and skills that I've learned, I can help them outside of their practice and tournament time and create a workout program, keep them healthy. That way they don't develop any chronic injuries like lower back injuries, shoulder, wrist injuries, elbow injuries, things like that. And then in general, I feel like the exercise component will elevate their mental component, right? And so if you're healthy physically, I think mentally it assists you. It makes you a little bit more sharper, and just more calm. You know, if you use exercise as a way to just kind of de-stress and think about and visualize, you know, how you're going to play the game, I feel like it's a huge component that can help their performance and hopefully win tournaments and make more money and all that. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring in video game into the active variable kind of platform. And I'm still trying to figure out how to get it all together. You know, I started the active variable in March, and I'm happy with where I'm at. You know, I think what's important for me is that I'm taking little steps, you know, every day or every other day, as long as I'm not forgetting about it and not doing anything, right? I do feel like there's a space for it, and so my goal is just to get there someday. That's pretty much my spiel. So if you guys want to share a little bit of who you guys are, so when I put this out, my fans can kind of see what you guys are doing.
Yeah. So how do you want to?
We'll start with your name.
Okay. Well, started off. I'm Sam.
And I'm Megan.
And we are Supay. We have a podcast called Life of the Lost. We are primarily a clothing brand. We have some music as well, piece of Supay. And what would you say also?
I would say, yeah, we're primarily a clothing brand, and you do music on the side, which is Uhu Pacha, which kind of ties in with the South American roots. And that's what we're inspired by, our South American roots and being adopted. It's kind of like a fine line we walk about coming into America, you know, having Caucasian parents, where do we belong, kind of looking back, moving forward, and kind of bridging that gap, you know, between the past and the future.
Yeah, because it's important. It's important, you know, to know where you've been in terms of even deeper than just, you know, where you grew up, but like where your bloodline, where your culture, where your origin kind of goes back to. And so that's kind of, in a sense, kind of what we're doing. We're trying to bridge a gap between the old world and the new world and create creative ways to get people interested and get people to want to learn. And that's kind of our goal as a company and as a brand. So
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and I really like your theme and the reason why you guys started Supay, and that was why I reached out to you guys as well, just because of the the whole visuals that you guys have on your website, on your apparel, your designs, all of that, and the story behind why you're doing everything, and now with your podcast, like adding that component, like I do feel like you guys have a lot of value, and your stories that you're sharing, there's a lot of value to it. So that's why I reached out, and I wanted to connect with you guys, and it happened. And I felt like, we connected. And for me, I think the first thing that caught my attention was your logo. I really like the art. And so the logo that I have for the active variable now, this is the third one that I've done. And it took me a while to figure it out. But finally, once I figured it out, I was just like, damn, this reminds me so much of you guys and your logo. And I really like the design. My friend Pedro helped me design it, and he's a really good artist as well. But that was kind of why I reached out and just wanted to connect with you guys. And I'm glad it worked out, and now we got something coming out together. And but going back to like the business perspective, so the website, how did you guys go about that? Like, did you guys spend the time learning everything about like using the hosting sites like WordPress or Shopify, and then from that, like trying to figure out like the user experience, and then all of that? Like, how was that website experience for you guys, the e-commerce world?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think maybe you can take a shot at that.
Yeah, so I usually design all my websites previously. Just going to art school, you have to kind of learn how to do websites, but it's basic coding like HTML and CSS, nothing too crazy. And so when I went into it, I was like, okay, maybe we should just do this on Squarespace, because that's what I was used to. It's just like these templates, kind of like moving pieces and blocks. And I was like, okay, that's pretty good. But then I started researching the back end of it and just thinking, okay, Shopify has so many more kind of apps that you can add on to it. It's better for shipping, and that was a big thing for me. Previously, I used to sell things on eBay, so eBay is really easy as far as shipping, and you get to just put in their email address or their address, and then their just all their information, and you print it out right away, and it's nothing. You don't really need to worry about the cost because it's embedded in there and everything, and that's how this was. And that was the big difference for me, because I didn't want to have to deal with that. And they also handle taxes, things like that, just things like little things that you don't necessarily want to have to think about later on. They handle that, and they kind of manage all of that on the side for you. And like I said, the built-in apps are really nice too. So that's kind of why I think we went with Shopify. And then as far as user experience, I think just both of us being on websites in general, just thinking, okay, I remember learning, I think people have such short attention span in general, and so getting on a website, you want to have to be able to like press it right away, right? You want to be able to, what is this? What's the website? What's the main thing? And so that's why our website, it's like it just says Supay, and then kind of the mission statement, and then right underneath it has like our clothing, and then like our podcast and newsletter. So I mean, there's different layers to it, but it's kind of like, what do I want them initially to see? And so I think because we were started as Apparel, that's what we obviously kind of want. And all the different media and everything is kind of linked to there. So it's interesting, and I'm curious. I guess I'm curious for websites in general, like which would be interesting to look up, is like how long can you scroll to keep somebody's attention? Or I think I remember it was like you have 2 seconds to keep somebody's attention on your website, and after that they're gone.
Yeah, I'm just like super impressed with the amount of like time and like research you did into really trying to figure out the best way that we can bring our dream to life via a website, and all the little details like you were talking about that went into creating it to the way it is. Because I know personally, I definitely wanted the brand to come across as modern and sleek, because I definitely love that about from my personal experience. I know that, let's give an example. Sometimes I'm in markets and in the city, and sometimes you come across these like really awesome, like Aztec, shirts and t-shirt apparel, like, stores. And I would always like love that, and I'd be like, dang, that looks so cool. I just wish it could be like less, I don't know how to describe
Like
it.
cliche.
Yeah, less cliche, more like modern. More, if only it would look more modern, more sleek. Definitely like a streetwear apparel approach to it. Like, oh man, that would be so cool. So I took that and subconsciously in my mind, like when we were trying to figure out definitely an aesthetic for the brand we were trying to convey, and like bridging the gap, like trying to give that modern sleek look. And so I'm very proud about our website and how it comes across, because it's definitely like brings that look, so that's
it's like very clean.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what I was worried about too, is kind of, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, it's like I don't want to call any other brand out, but there's a lot of like Hispanic brands, and it's just very cliche with, it's just like, it's a mess, kind of like, I guess in lamest terms, it's kind of a mess, and there's just patterns and things everywhere, and it's going on, and it's like, wow, I've seen that like Aztec design over there, and like that Mayan design over there, and I guess, yeah, I like that too. It's just a little bit more sleek. I feel like you're always walking a fine line between like modern and the old world, and kind of
finding that perfect balance of spices, to create that bomb meal.
It's crazy how it all comes back for your vision, right? Like the vision that you guys have of like finding that balance, like you were talking about, like your roots, right? And then the present and the future. And even with your website, you guys were able to put all those components and ideas together. Because I do get that feel when I look at your website. To me, it's simplified, but it's like you're saying, like it's sleek. Like it does feel like it's a modern, type of vibe with these like ancient designs that that tell a whole story if you just want to dive into that specific design for a little bit, right? So I do like that you guys have thought about all those little things. How has COVID been for you guys in regard to your Supay?
COVID, it's really weird, right? Because everybody has been kind of like in the dumps, but for us, it was during COVID. It's been the best time for us, just like sale wise. And I don't know if that's more people are just, they're at home and they're like looking at their phones and we're just pushing out more content. I don't know if it's because we've had more time to kind of really analyze what we want to do. I mean, COVID, it's not, I don't ever want to talk like super positive about it, but it's just really given us time to say, okay, I've been wanting to do a podcast since the very beginning, and it was kind of like hard to get Sam on board because it's a very personal thing, getting in front of a camera. I still get like nervous and shaky sometimes, but you're talking about yourself, and it's weird because it's like, oh, I don't want to just like, when are people going to get so bored of me talking, But COVID's given us like a lot of time to research things, like what kind of lights, what kind of microphones, how do we do this, how do we do that, and kind of like perfect things. And so I think it's been a nice chunk of time to be able to kind of move forward and see what we want to do.
Yeah, and definitely like socially acceptable to just kind of be a hermit, just like, because like for me, like, I'm always like, I always like for music, like I'm always want to learn. I always want to like research how to formulate a song, how to EQ, how to mix all that stuff, figuring out like the best plugins and all that stuff. So it's really cool that I can kind of just be like, oh, I don't really want to go out, guys. Kind of it's pretty wild out there. I'm just gonna kick back and be at home, and people like, yo, I totally understand, so it's kind of like, yeah, so it's been good for us, but yeah.
And it's not just you guys, right? If we pay attention to all of the e-commerce that's booming right now, tech is booming. There's a tech bubble right now, apparently, right, in the stock market, and it's because of that. I think everything that you said, where like people are at home, right? And when brands have more time to push content out. And I think the podcast is huge for you guys because you have a long form content. You guys are producing once a week, the long form podcast. And then from that, you're able to create the short form content for Instagram. And so I think that just adds more value because you guys are sharing personal stories, and so people that can connect with you are going to want to buy in and support Supay. But also I think that it just helps to like make you guys feel more authentic, right? Or like whoever's watching, whoever's noticing what you guys are doing or aware of Supay, it just feels more authentic. Like there's you guys are on camera, you guys are sharing stories. Like that's huge, right? Not a lot of brands do that, especially smaller businesses where right now it's just the two of you guys. But as you guys grow, right, hopefully, and this experience with COVID could be one of those like stepping stones where you guys can somehow figure out how to use that money that you're making to like reinvest it in your business and continue to scale it, and little by little like just make that part of your income so you can focus more time on Supay and keep growing that brand. Right. At least that's the picture that I have in mind with the active variable. Like eventually make some money. So then I start working less at FedEx and then more at active variable, less personal training, more BrownLab media, and then eventually transition to just having my own businesses instead of working for somebody else.
Yeah, that's definitely the goal. That's we pretty much just like set our 10-year goal. And yeah, like it's definitely, if that's something that you want to do, grow a business, it's definitely a mindset of a lifestyle. Things don't happen overnight, and if they do, that's amazing for you. But for us, we're each, like you said, each little step every day, making these small progresses will, turn into this. When you look back in like 5 years, we'll turn this huge thing. It won't even feel like 5 years because you're doing what you love, It's always about like that. I love it. It's like solving a puzzle, It's like, how do I connect these together? How can it work? How can it fit seamlessly? So definitely something that I look forward to every day, trying to better the brand. So
yeah.
And I appreciate you bringing up that it makes like us more authentic too, because it's, like I said before, it's really nerve-wracking sometimes getting in front of a camera and talking to somebody. And I think that is what sets us apart, because I did so much research. Like, do I want to be a Nike brand? Do we want to be a Nike brand where it's kind of just flashy pictures? It's in really cool places. Everything's photoshopped. Or
we
do you want to be?
Had that. Yeah, we definitely had a bunch of like talks about that. And I'll just go ahead and say, you definitely right on that. Yeah, I was wrong. I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of behind the scenes, but you really changed my mind, and that's that. And I love that, because obviously a lot of people like that about the brand. And I'm all about, if it works, keep doing it, so.
Yeah, and even like the packaging and stuff. Like at first I was like, I loved everything about the packaging, and I was like, look, I got this, we're going to do this, we're going to tie it this way. And Sam was just like, yeah, all right. And it was just so cool, because once people are getting their packages, that's one of the main things they were talking about, is just unwrapping it. And it's this whole experience, and getting this and the map and all of these stickers and things like that. And it made me so happy, because I was like, at first it's kind of like an art project for me. It just, how do I, because when you open a gift or when you open the mail, it's so sincere, right? And how can I do that instead of just do like a regular, UPS or FedEx or one of those boxes, and then you just shove a t-shirt in there? And
yeah, you definitely opened my mind in terms of how valuable that process can be. So, but.
And that's another reason why, again, I reached out to you guys, and I know I mentioned it in the past, but I saw that video where you spent your time just paying attention to every little detail on the package, right? And how the sticker goes, and how the ribbon goes, and like all these little things to me are important, because it just shows that you appreciate every person that buys your product, right? You're not just producing it like you said, like you're just grabbing a bunch and throwing them in boxes, and all right, bye, I'm done, who's next? I feel like you put a little bit more thought into it. At the end of the day, you are going to open it, and that stuff, you're going to put it to the side because you want to wear the shirt, right? But I think some people are actually going to like read all that stuff and look at all that and like hold it, right? Like they might enjoy it a little bit more than you would think, just because of the time that you put into making something like that and creating a presentable package. But yeah, so that's another reason why I wanted to work with you guys, because of that paying attention to the details.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people don't really care. Like you said, they just want to open the shirt and they just throw it all to the side. But some people do like pay attention to the postcard or the poster in our last launch that we did, and it just had like the map and showed every single design and what this means. And so I would get pictures from friends and they'd be like, "Oh my God, it actually matches with the shirt." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's the point," you know. And some people, you see them open it up and they just, like you said, they throw it to the side, and both are like 100% okay. It's just kind of just making sure it's all there, and just if you want to see it, there it is. If not, don't worry.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's theirs now, right? Like you did your job to create something that's better than somewhere else they could have gone and bought, right? So you produced something that is presentable, that you work hard on. You did your best to make something. Now, what happens after that, you have no control over that, right? Yeah. But you make it so good that sometimes they'll appreciate it even more, right? They actually take the time to look and read and all that, right? But not everybody's like that.
Yeah.
Some people are just in a rush and they're like, "Oh, I love this shirt. I'm just gonna rock it. Right. Here's a picture. Where's the stuff? I don't know."
Yeah, and hopefully, like, some people read it and like actually understand, like, this is real stuff. Like, real research went into this. Like when we did all of the temples and the locations and I always forget that name, the location markers. It's not location marker. What is it called? With the points.
Landmark?
Yeah, the coordinates and the landmarks and all that stuff. But I guess that's the difference between like drop shipping too, because that was an option of doing drop shipping, and you know they take so much of your money, you know, in general, and then it's this print on demand kind of thing, and then I ordered somebody's product that I knew was drop shipped, and I didn't get it for 2.5 weeks, and when I opened it, there wasn't like anything in it. It was just the sweatshirt. There was no thank you card or nothing. It was just the sweatshirt. That's it. And I was like, oh, like I just kind of wanted more. Because I do appreciate the people who, you know, take the time to handwrite something and say like, thank you for buying our product or whatever. But yeah, that's a little segment, I suppose.
Yeah, no, that's dope. I like that. I like that you guys spent, you know, your time for doing all those little things. So I guess, so now more specific to the collaboration that we're doing. So how were you able to come up with the designs and the postcard and all that stuff? What was your process for creating this product launch?
Well, I guess to start it off, was the thought process in the beginning, I guess. The actual brainstorming of the design, what would the design be? Like, I don't know, we were thinking about it, and obviously we kind of narrowed it down into our identities, like Active Variable and Supay and the logos that we each have, and the similarities in them, and how they are really awesome, like iconic pieces. And I remember we brainstormed a few different designs, t-shirt designs, and we had sent them to you, and we got your feedback. And then after that, we kind of did some more brainstorming and refined those ideas. I forgot, like, how did that happen when before we settled on that, like, design?
Well, we kind of like both branched off. Like, you took the design, you took his logo and our logo and went with it, and then I took it and went with it, and we just kind of went in separate rooms and we're designing. And then we had showed you the different designs, and then we were just sitting there one time and we were just playing with it, and you were behind me. And this is sometimes how it works, because I genuinely just think Sam's a better designer than I am. So I'll just have this stuff up and I'll be like, should I move it here? And he's like, no, to the side, no, down. And so that totally works for me, because I'm just chilling with my pen, like moving everything around. And I think that's how it kind of came to be.
Yeah, because it was the two logos, and I was like, it looks so good, but I need to figure out like something that can glue it all together. And so I was like brainstorming in my mind, and I was just kind of like logos, like football teams, like esports logos, teams. What would be like a cool kind of just design? And I figured it out, which is just kind of, you know, just kind of putting a black border around it, and then putting it like the simplest thing, just putting like a stroke and just bringing it all together. And when we looked at it, we were both we brainstormed, after that even more, just to kind of flesh out any other ideas that we might have had. But I think once we saw that, we were just like, wow, I think that's the one. And so, so that's kind of that process. But I think we were both really happy with that.
Yeah, I liked it because, we could show it right now.
Yeah.
I love it because it's kind of, like Sam said, it's like, it's that icon. And because like your logo is so similar to ours, it's so beautiful. And like putting it together with ours was so simple for the most part, because I mean, the strokes and everything really worked well together. Yeah.
And I was really like, persistent on keeping that black ink in there, because that black ink keeps that kind of, what is it?
It molded it kind of together.
Yeah, like that there's a word, the logo feel. I don't know, the iconic feel. That.
So there was two ways to go about it. There was one way to add 3 colors, which is obviously more expensive, or the 2 colors, right? Because it's technically, you don't need the black ink because it's a black shirt. And so I was like, maybe we should do that. And
like,
Sam was super good.
It matters. Yeah. Just please hear me out.
I trust. And I don't think we were like charged for that black either. So I was like, oh, okay. I'm always like about like crunching numbers and like figuring this out. And I'm ridiculous sometimes because like for the postcards, you mentioned that, just like researching places who can do it well, but who aren't going to break the budget. And I'm embarrassed sometimes to say, but like I spent like 3 or 4 hours just researching a postcard place, and we got our business cards done again too, and just researching that. And I'm just kind of like, oh my gosh, Megan, I think you're gonna have to like put a timer on yourself next time.
No, but I feel like all that is like useful because it's a win-win, right? You do like 4 hours, 5 hours of research, you find the one that you're like, it all matches up, everything kind of aligns, and you're like, let's go to that one. You print it, for whatever reason it doesn't look how you envisioned it, but because you did so much research, you can just backtrack a little bit and say, oh, well, maybe this one might do it differently, just because, and just being able to just like shoot back to that thought process that quickly because you already did the research, kind of like you shorten it in the long run too, regardless.
That's true.
Right? So.
I suppose, because then I learned all about different paper weights too, and
even
different inks, and so it's just that whole process, and you look back on it and you're like, oh my god, I can't believe you spent that much time like just like looking at this stuff. So ridiculous. But
then you look at the designs and the final product and you're like, wow, it was all worth it,
Yeah, that's true.
So
the integration of everything, right? Putting everything together, it's a long process, right? Even like just creating content, like with the podcast that we're doing right now, right? Like that takes time. It takes so much time to do something like this. And I think that's why like you guys spending so much time putting the product together, and then that package when it goes out, seeing everything together like that, like it's more value than just a shirt, right? Yeah. There's a whole story behind it, and now just getting more into the details of everything that you guys did to put it all together. Like it's a process, and I think for me, like I guess the vision that I want to paint for the listeners is that this is something that anybody can do if you just spend some time, right? If you are passionate about an idea and you spend time researching and kind of putting everything together, integrating everything together, there's a place where there's a final product that looks like that, right? And if you're somebody that wants to have like your own business or like be independent as much as possible, this is one route to go. Right? Yeah. Creating your own business. And so I think like that's a story that you guys also can tell and can share that's huge because it can help so many people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think looking at and researching things on your own, it's like one of those things, right? Later on, once this blossoms, to be able to say, okay, to hire somebody, and be like, okay, you look up the postcard stuff this time, and you do those estimates and you come and get back to me, because it's not obviously not my favorite part. I do like kind of like just testing different places out, but that in the long run will save you time, and then you realize how much time it took you, and just kind of figuring out that process, I suppose.
Yeah. And also now that you found that producer, right, and you like what they made for you, then now it's next time it's going to be easier because now you found somebody that you trust and it's within your budget, and so next time you're not going to spend 4 hours. It's a lot less.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, even the t-shirts this time, kind of designing them. The first time, like our first launch last year, it was buying it from, I did it such like the hard way. I like bought it from a wholesaler, and then I found a local printer. And then we had all these troubles with the printer and had to go somewhere else, and like it deterred us for a few months, and just kind of going all these different places. And so this time we did it just a little bit differently, and it worked out like so much faster. Honestly, like 3 months faster than last time. So yeah, you're right. It's kind of just doing it all, figuring it out, and then kind of giving and taking and picking out the pieces that you need in the long run.
Yeah. Definitely think that like our current like process of doing things, I guess, like, you know, you're talking about as you grow, you know, I guess, sorry, the current process in terms of just trying to, I don't know, personally, I always find that I do so much research and I do so much time, and I have this product, and it's like that much there, and for whatever reason, that little bit just, I fall short. I don't know how, and it just, when the final product is released, it's like that little bit ends up being like there, and the product ends up being there. So I guess like my mindset personally, like for the brand, is how can I minimize and how can I follow through, and in like the fourth quarter, 2 minutes like crunch time, like how can I like just get that little piece that I'm missing, and that little piece could be, I don't know, calling up 2 extra, I don't know, printers, or you know, doing background checks on certain things to just try and get it as perfect as you envisioned it. So, and I think that as you get that last little piece down better in terms of that process, how much of a better design and how quicker you could get things done, and how much rewarding and it will be in the end. I don't know if I said that right, but
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like I also think of like Elon Musk, for example. Like he's somebody that I like to pay attention to the things that he's doing because of everything that he does.
Yeah.
And his way of making things is that he deconstructs everything, and he starts everything from the bottom up, right? And I feel like it's hard to do that on your own. In order to do something like that, you need people around you that are specialists, right? Because you need help when you're putting something together like that. Like, for example, with you finding just the shirts individually, wholesale, and then trying to figure out how to get them printed, and then you're making the design, like there's all these different parts, right? And in order for you to scale, that's where, again, it comes down to like hiring people that are specialized in those different areas. So then that kind of takes you, it puts you in the place where you need to be, which is just kind of managing and being the director of the designs. And those little things that you spend hours on doing are things that somebody has been doing for years, for example, and then they come in and they're able to take care of those little things for you guys.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And because you know, like what the hard work it took before to do that, you know, their time constraints involved in that. You know, what I might give somebody a video to edit, and for me maybe it took 4 hours, but I got it done. And for them maybe it only took a few hours, but maybe you hire somebody else and it takes 6 hours, and then you're just kind of like, obviously I'm not going to go with the 6-hour person. So you kind of know where you're at as far as like when you give work to somebody. And I think that for me is the scariest thing, because I know what I want, and so it's so hard to give it to somebody and just say, okay, like just take it, and like I'm going to cross my fingers.
Yeah. That's definitely like what you know, you referencing Elon Musk, like as well as he takes it, you know, he disassembles whatever he does, or more importantly, he learns like how it operates. And when you learn how it operates, like you know how long something takes to get done, then you can be that much more efficient, and then be able to like see outside the box, like you're saying, be like, yeah, it takes this long, or yeah, it needs to be, what if you tweak it like there, you know, like numbers and stuff. So that's important. So
yeah, I've been working with my little sister, so she just graduated high school, and I'm getting her involved with all the stuff that I have going on with the Active Variable and BrownLab Media. And so she's been learning how to just manage the BrownLab Media Instagram page and also how to update the BrownLab Media website. And so I've been teaching her all these things. And right now I'm getting her on Adobe Premiere and Audition just to get her to edit, to help me with the editing process. But I've been doing these things for years. So when like I show her what I'm doing, it's just like I'm clicking, I'm moving, I'm doing all these things. And then I have to like slow down a little bit and teach her or show her why I do the things that I do. And then I also send her links of the YouTubers that I've watched that have taught me so much about how to edit videos and all these different things that I do. But I think that again, in order to scale, you do need to trust others, right? And it's not always going to be the way that you want it because it's somebody else doing what you have in your mind. But I think with the communication, right, and knowing how to manage, it's a different skill being a manager, right? But if you're able to become better at that and giving better directions, being very specific with the directions and the things that you want, I think you can go really close to what it is that you want and having somebody else do that for you, right?
Yeah, and definitely, you know, teaching them also helps you better understand whatever it is that you're teaching, you know? So it has that, you know, student teacher mentality, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely really hard to teach somebody once you've done something. You know, you just kind of, like you said, with your fingers, you're just already moving everything around, and
you're like, why do you do that? And you're like, that's a good question. Why do I do that?
Yeah, it's so. That's so funny because I was trying to, I don't remember who it was. Oh, I was trying to teach my friend InDesign the other day, and it was like on a Zoom call. And so I was just showing her, and I was sharing my screen, and I was pressing all these buttons, and she's like, wait, how did you do the delete? And I was like, well, duh, it's just like Command Z. And obviously, like, she doesn't know this. And so I was like, all right, I don't think I'm that great of a teacher right now because it's just second nature, I suppose.
Yeah, it's different. It's a different skill for sure. And that's something that I've gotten a little bit of experience on more recently from like coaching a freshman sophomore basketball team and like mentoring a student from the athletic training program. Like I've been getting a lot more experiences with teaching and mentoring. So I feel like that's a skill that I've gotten better at, and it's something that I like. It feels good to be able to teach and help somebody build a skill. And I think it's rewarding because it shows that we put all the time and effort into learning something, and now we're able to teach somebody how to do what we already know how to do, right? So I like that. I think it's something that as you get older, right, you're able to do that more of because you have more skills to teach.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, definitely coaching is something I'm like, my fascination for that is like growing just from obviously like, you know, watching football and stuff, just the idea of, you know, learning concepts, learning plays, defense, offense, and just like, and then on top of all that knowledge, now how can I command a team, like a group of guys, you know, how can I teach them? So that's like really interesting. So
it's very rewarding, man. Honestly, I would say give it a try at the high school level if you ever have the chance to. I think that's a good level to start, especially with the freshman sophomore teams or even a JV team, because JV is already a little bit competitive, but once you're at the varsity level, it's a completely different experience. At the varsity level, there's so much pressure to win that you as a coach stop having some fun, and then the kids stop having fun because there's so much pressure from parents and administration and teammates. And so at the freshman level though, it's fun. You're just out there having fun, especially if you're a rookie coach. You're just like, go out there and play, and I'll substitute whenever I see something, but just have fun.
Yeah, no, I was chuckling because you were saying that, and I was just like scores like 5 on a basketball team. No, that was my bad, guys. It's just blown coverage. I gotta next week. I'll do more research. But anyways.
Yeah, man. No, I definitely enjoyed it. I had a really good time coaching last year. Obviously, with COVID, we don't have any of that going on right now. But it was great to also like get some feedback from the athletes, right? And them like asking me one-on-one questions on how to do specific moves, and trying to teach me plays. Like, hey, coach, I saw this play. Can we do like a pick and pop?
Whoa, slow down. let me. What's this called?
Right. But it's cool to have that camaraderie with like your team, you know what I mean? Like them having to like ask you questions that rely on you and like suggest things, and then you as a coach having to be like, should I listen to him or should I do my own thing? Like like all these things that you got to think about as a coach, as a new coach, right? As you get older again as a coach and you have experience, then it's just like, no, we're doing things my way. I know what works, right? You can be that kind of coach, or you can, again, at the freshman, sophomore level, at that point, for me, my goal was just to give them all minutes and to try and get a win. But even if we didn't win, the point was just to get them experience and get them in that competitive level so they can feel challenged. That way, when they make it to varsity, they had some of that stress, right, of winning and losing. And then on my like perspective too, it was just like, okay, what am I gonna say to them what if we lose, or like my winning speech or losing speech? Like,
I bet is that kind of like stressful, like towards the end, when you're thinking about it and you're looking at the scoreboard and you're like, okay, like what should I say? Like, do you have to prep for that?
A little bit, yeah. I do, because I have to take into account the game, right? Like what happened in that game, like missed shots and like fouls and all of that, and I do try to point out the good things and some of the bad things that we need to improve on, right? That way I'm trying to give them feedback so they can get better. So as the game is going on, I'm taking notes. Okay, I'm gonna bring this up.
It's like I'm gonna have Davis just practice 3 throws the whole practice on Monday. Like, he's gotta learn. Nah, just kidding. But wait, you said you coach basketball?
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I was actually thinking about that because it's different than football, because your offense is your defense. So you have to, I don't know, I guess maybe, definitely like varsity, or like, that how much more of an importance that might be in terms of like setting up that. But like, I'm sure I don't even know like when it comes to when that even is applicable, because I can't even remember if I even learned that from the brief time I was playing basketball. But
it's completely different. A completely different sport, right? Because one of the reasons why I like basketball is because you have to know how to do everything. If you're a good offensive player but you suck at defense, it's gonna show real quick. Right. On a football team, when you're a wide receiver, you're just on offense. You don't have to tackle. You just have to be good at catching the ball and fast and change your direction and agility, like all these specific performance variables. But it's a completely different mentality that you go into with those different sports. So that's one of the reasons why I like basketball, the complexity of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, cool. Well, I think I've asked a lot of questions. I'm good on my end. I don't know if you guys have any other questions.
I would say what I've always been interested with you is how you plan on combining all of this. Like, I think that's so cool, being, like an athletic trainer and then going into video games, because before I met you, I had no idea what that even existed. And then looking into like EA Sports and looking at them like, oh, they actually have an apparel line, and then looking at all of these things and doing more research into that. How do you think that you're going to move forward and kind of break into that field?
So one thing that I've experimented already with is helping out my cousin and my sister's boyfriend, because they're big gamers. So what I was doing was I was meeting with them once or twice a week through video chat and helping them exercise. And what I realized is that with them, teaching them the basics, and obviously I think every person is different, but at least with them, teaching them the basics of stretching your hip flexors, because if you're sitting down for 4, 6, 8 hours, your hip flexors get really tight, your quads get really tight. So let's make sure that we're foam rolling, so we're doing soft tissue to release the muscle, and then stretching on top of that to keep it lengthened throughout your day. If you don't do that, then that's where you can start to develop just like tight hip flexors, which are going to rotate your pelvic bone, which is going to start to cause a issue with your lower back, right? Because at that point you're pulling on different muscles that aren't supposed to be getting pulled on, and so teaching them basic things like that, and seeing it click, for them, was important for me. And I think that's the first way that I want to infiltrate that esports world, where I just want to provide those basic concepts initially, like build a foundation around your posture when you're playing, right? Because again, I want to focus on that first, like when you're playing, but I also want to take a step back outside of when you're not playing, so that we can improve your performance for when you are playing. But I would like to start with that, just kind of focusing on when you're sitting down, ergonomics wise, what are some things that are going to bother you because you're sitting down for so long, like your shoulders and your head being forward, right? So we call that like forward head syndrome, like or your shoulders being forward as well. So like that's an issue that in the future, if you don't correct that, if you don't try to do things that oppose that, for example, stretching out your chest muscles, right, opening up your arms, like grabbing onto the door hinge and like stretching out, keeping your neck straight, doing things like that. If you don't work on that, when you get older, you're going to be walking around looking down the whole time, kind of like a hunchback.
Yeah.
wouldn't want that.
No.
But a lot of people are, right? Because first of all, you're on your phone looking down, and then now we're watching TV and we're playing video games a lot. So you're sitting and you're not really paying attention to your form when you're sitting, right? So there's a proper form when you sit as well. And so these are the basic things that I want to bring in initially, and just kind of see how that kind of, I guess I'm thinking of a service. I want to provide a service. I want to either have like a membership model, like for $1 a month, come into this community, and I have an athletic trainer myself. I have a registered dietitian. I have a sports psychologist, and ask us questions, right? And so start with something like that. Like let's just create a health team for esports. And then I think from that, I could venture out into like doing one-on-one. Okay, you like what we're doing here for a group? How about we do a one-on-one session where I can actually work with you on something that's specific for you. Like we already learned kind of like the foundation of posture when you're sitting and stretching out your hip flexors because you're sitting for so long. But now let's get out of that and let's focus on your performance outside of that. Like what are some things that you like to do outside of gaming? Do you like to play basketball? Okay, if you do, then let's use that as a way to exercise and improve your health and improve your performance, so that when you are playing video games, you're more aware of your body, and you're more aware mentally of like how you're feeling, and just being more, I guess, focused in, like using as much as we can with exercise to get you to focus in on your tournaments and your performance. So I think those are two ways that I've thought about creating some business financial producing models or whatever, bringing some money in.
Yeah, it definitely reminds me of like the Tom Brady, like the TB12, you know, just how that aesthetics of like how he just has his own niche of athletic, you know, training that caters to very, you know, I guess older guys and even younger guys who just want to be able to retain that long career in professional sports. So I totally see you being like, you know, that for like esports in that sense. It'd be really, really awesome to see that come to fruition.
Yeah, it's different. It's not something that exists. At least I haven't seen it, and so
that's even better though.
Yeah.
So
I agree. I agree, and I think I just need to continue to try and just produce content and keep researching and keep making contacts and just experimenting. You know, throw myself out there and offer my services for free to start. You know, just to see if I can reach eventually just bigger esport, you know, just gamers, and see if they buy into the idea that I bring to the table, or the experience that I bring to the table. and hopefully produce results for them, right, with those components and ideas that I have. And if it does, right, if it does work out where they feel healthier, they feel better, and they feel like it's helping their performance, then that's when I can start to like just get the ball rolling with that, right?
Yeah, and I think it's good, like, you're cultivating such a good network of people, like, in the health industry, you know, and to just keep building on that. And then, like you said, to have kind of like that group, whether it's like a Zoom or something, and people come and it's free and you guys are answering all their questions. And I think that's half the battle, is just kind of getting this audience, you know, in front of you, just to show them all of the things you have to offer. And then, yeah, having those tiers, you know, $1 a month it's this, like $3 a month this, and, you know, just kind of going from there. I think that's so important. And you already have so many people, you know, that you have kind of like in your pocket that you can use.
Yeah, I that's like the sharing the stories through the podcast. I think it's great individually, but I think there's a bigger picture within that, which is kind of like what I think you're saying, where like these athletic trainers and these physician assistants that I'm already talking to, they can be part of the team eventually, right? That can come in and help these esport athletes. And I think it'll be interesting for them too, to be part of something that doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, and I feel like you can sell people on longevity, you know? Like, it's just like our phones, you know, back when we were first texting at, like, I think I was like 11 or 12, 13 years old, and you keep using your thumb so much with these, like, Curie keyboards. Is that what you call it? Like,
I
Curie?
have no idea, but I know.
The QWERTY?
Yeah. And you're just kind of constantly using, like, you know, you have to press the one button to get to C three times,
that, like,
remember?
Z, like that 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, and just to kind of do that, and, like, the longevity of that, obviously, like, I'm not feeling it so much now, but I remember back then, like, just doing it all the times. My thumbs were always so sore, and just thinking of, obviously they made a touchscreen now, so it's so much easier, but just the longevity of, like, a video gamer, you know, and if he's going to be sitting like this for a long time, and, like, how that's obviously not going to be good later on. And so I think just kind of looking at it, that perspective too.
Yeah. And a lot of them become very popular and successful at a young age. And that means that they are still pretty healthy, right? Their bodies can recover really fast. But as they start to get older and they've developed this lifestyle, this sedentary lifestyle, then it can get harder for them as they get older, right? So that's why I'm trying to reach the younger demographic. You know, that's again another reason why I wanted to like create this podcast around, like, let's share your story of how you found this career and any obstacles you faced, so we can help any other young adult that's trying to figure out what to do. Maybe they can think about it just because of your story, you know. But that was my idea behind why I want to share the stories on the Active Very Well podcast.
Yeah, that's important. I like, I was listening to one the other day about, I think somebody was an EMT, and then I learned that you were too for a little bit. And I was like, oh my gosh, just like thinking about people sitting in like an ambulance and going through that experience, and every single day is something different. And I can't even imagine, you know, seeing like tragic things happen, having to be on your feet constantly, just thinking, you know, mind-wise, your mind has to be there throughout like all this panic and chaos. And me just thinking of like designing and thinking like that's chaos. And I'm like, you're ridiculous, you know, listening to you and that, I forgot what his name was, but listening to him talk, I was just like, wow, that's mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's just crazy how it all happened for me. Like, I think of Steve Jobs talking about like pointing back, you know, 10 years to different things, and then today, like connecting all those dots, right? But yeah, when I graduated high school, I had no idea I would be in this field. I had no idea what I wanted to do. But I started working at restaurants, and then at 20, I started working at a gym. And then my life pivoted at that point, and that's when I found out about all of the fields the healthcare fields. And then I worked my way up with the idea of becoming an athletic trainer. But before getting to that, I became a personal trainer, and then I became an EMT, and all those have its own little story. Like, as a personal trainer, I worked for biomechanics strength and conditioning clinic, where they gave me clients. Then I went to LA Fitness, where I did the same thing. Then I got fired from there because I was already working at biomechanics, so it was a conflict of interest. So then I brought those clients and I started training them individually. So now I had my own business. They were paying me directly. And then from there, like becoming an EMT for a year. And then after that, starting my own business called Express EMS, where I hired other EMTs to go and work mud run events and feature films. And then from there, getting into the athletic training program. And then from there, like graduating and working with the Raiders. Like there's so many different things that I can look back at and be like, damn, like that's crazy.
All those useful pieces of information that you acquired along your journey that you can utilize with whatever you're working on in your current moment, which is awesome.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing that I would like advise people is just to like try and take some risk, like we got one life, and if you're interested in something, give it a try. At the end of the day, like that's gonna show you if you really like it or not. And I try to tell my little sister that all the time because she's still not sure of what she wants to do. So that's why I'm bringing her along and trying to teach her some of the things that I do, and just so at least she gets an understanding of what I spend my time doing. And if she wants to continue to do it, that's on her, right? But at least I feel like as an older brother, I've done a little bit of my job to like teach her some of the things that I've done.
Yeah. And even like, sorry. Even like showing her things that she might not like doing at all, even getting that perspective of like, I don't like that. Because I remember before finding where I'm at right now, it's like having like 17 to 20 jobs and just be like, not really sure about that. But I just feel like, the older generation is like, no, you find a job and you stick to it and you stay there for 30 years. And I'm just like, nah, I can't do that. Understanding it now a little bit, that like that kind of funds your dream. So staying at somewhere pretty secure that funds it. But yeah, like I give you props for doing that and to showing her, because she might not like website design at all, but you're like, well, I'm going to just show you this skill, and if you don't want to use it, you don't have to, but at least you know what you don't like.
Yes.
Yeah, and I know that I've personally, for personal experience, that like so many people like don't really know what they want to do, and on top of that too, I feel like there aren't as many people who are like super passionate in terms of one kind of like direction that they want to go. For me, I fell in love with music when I was 13, and I never looked back. I'm 100% like music, like that's my bread and butter. I just love creating and that aspect. And so I think that's really important, like, for your sister to have somebody in her life like you who is really passionate about something, because I think a lot can be said for that. Because I don't know, I don't think I grew up, I don't know if I grew up with anybody who is really like as a role model, but I definitely, my band at the time, I looked up to them, even though like they were like my age, but just because of their passion for music. Even when their passion faded, my passion was still strong, but I could only attribute a lot of my passion to them because they were just like, going hard. So, but yeah, no, like you were saying, I think it's important because to keep on going, because a lot of people in your circles can see that, and it might inspire them. Wow, I just love how I just love how you're so, it's like so passionate about this, like, oh man, I got to get something like that, or tell me what you're doing. Like, I want to learn. And then they might fall in love with what you're doing too. Like, so it's awesome, full circle,
Yeah, I agree completely, for sure. And like another reason why I started a podcast, my like long-term perspective is when I'm 80 and 90, I want to look back and listen to these stories, and just hear myself talk. I feel like the legacy component of creating this content and leaving it there and just letting it live there forever, I think that's huge. That's something that our parents and grandparents didn't have as many platforms as we do now, right? Yeah. They had pictures, and that was it at one point, right? And before that, there wasn't pictures. You had to just memorize, your life.
So we have paintings.
Paintings, yeah.
Yeah.
But now we have all of these platforms, right, where we can share how we are feeling and our projects. And I think when we're older, I think that's the legacy that we leave behind. When we die, that's the legacy we leave behind. Yeah. These videos and these words, these podcasts. And I think that's another reason why I started it. Just for my future bloodlines.
Absolutely. And it just kind of shows your growth too. You know, like as cringy as some of like the beginning podcasts were for us, or the beginning videos, you know, and things are shaky and things are falling and everything like that, you know, as cringy as that is, it's kind of cool to look back and say like that damn, I could have done better. But then to see it now and just say, oh, I am doing better. And then maybe in like 5 years, you're just like, what was I thinking?
Yeah, I took what you said so much deeper than you initially. Because I was like, your growth, and I was just thinking like, oh, that's like Grandpa Edwin, you know, that's like Grandpa, you know, like because the literal growth of like your being from like 20 to, you know, your like growth of your production quality.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, I feel that. That's important too.
Yeah. I mean, all around, everything is, I feel like too. And yeah, like you said, to show your future bloodline, like this is something that I did, because it's not as easy as you would think it would be, you know, all the time. And there are so many hard times, even, you know, sometimes before getting on camera, you know, getting on there and not necessarily faking like the smile, like I'm always happy kind of thing, but just kind of to get through what your life, right? We have to kind of focus on what we're doing right now, and everything beforehand is just beforehand. And it kind of just gives you that element of focus and drive, and to kind of just push forward and just, all right, we're doing this now. You know, things are kind of like linear for the most part.
Yeah. And that's important. It's important to have those like short-term goals and long-term goals, because if you don't, then that's when you feel lost, right? And you are depressed and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. But if we create these little projects for ourselves, at least we have one thing that keeps us pushing, you know, and creating and visualizing and just trying different things.
Yeah, and I guess going back to that, it's kind of like when I miss a day, or when we miss a day of like posting for Supay, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like a stab in your back, you know, kind of. And it's kind of one of those things where it's, was I not working on it? Did I just not push out like good enough content? What even is good enough content to post? Because, you know, like, because Supay is so much a part of our life, like I said before, there's that fine line between posting something like commercialized, or posting something, you know, that, you know, maybe just a picture of the side of the shirt or something like simple. And I think it's, oh damn, I just forgot what I was gonna say.
But just like a little bit of trying to, you know, create daily content that kind of touches on all of them, you know, and that perfect, you know, balance, you know, between, you know, coming off with a standard, as well as coming off with authenticity and you know, creativity and pureness in terms of your intentions of the post, not just like a post that, you know, whatever, it's a post for a post, you know, it actually has some thought behind it and some meaning.
Yeah.
It's always important.
But going back to like the project thing, that's what I was going to say, is like having something to do. Because I remember when I was back in Minnesota, like I had something to do, but not really. I would work my 9 to 5 and I would go home and I would cook dinner and I'd just chill and watch New Girl all day. You know, like I love that show. And it would just make me laugh. Really? Oh my gosh, it's so funny. And like I'm just like obsessed with all these Adam Sandler movies too, and like Sam knows, like I'll watch like Big Daddy, like
I don't know how you do it, but
probably like hundreds of times, just because it's like so funny and it just makes me feel good. And so that's what I was doing. I was literally just working in my 9 to 5, and then I would go home, and I had this like giant apartment, and I'd just hang out in my little area, like on my couch all day. And then I can't, like here, there's not, like today, I'm just not even having, you know, 20 minutes to just sit down for myself. But looking back and just seeing like how much happier I am, always like going, always doing something. And it's that kind of go-go mentality that just keeps pushing, you know, you forward and making you feel like, I don't know, making you feel like you're, I don't know, worth something. Maybe that's not the right word, but making you feel like you're doing something with your life. And so back then, you know, doing that, like in Minnesota, it's not that I wasn't doing something, because I was. It's
kind of like that ignorance is bliss, in the sense of like kind of you were living your life, you know, you were working on, you know, your physical health and mental health, but it was a long-term goal, but it wasn't, I don't know, it's not like something that
it's hard, because it's like, what do I show for it, kind of? I mean, you show your happiness, but then it's like, but what do I show? You know, and that's kind of what I like with Supay. It's like, I have this shirt, I did all this research, here's my notebooks. Just
and once you turn that on, it's kind of like, whoa, this whole world. There's so much I can't, you know, like, gotta go, you know, like quick. Like how you're saying, like, I have to do this. Oh man, like I didn't get a post out. Dang, like, gotta think. All right, put your thinking cap on. We don't have much time. Let's figure this out.
Yeah.
On a daily. So it's like process, but you learn to love it because for those wins, and they mean everything. Those wins, those little progresses. So that's what keeps me going every day.
Yeah, I think that it's like, I think back of school, like getting my bachelor's degree in athletic training, and every day or every week having to turn in assignments, right? And having homework and having to read and study. And there was a long time where I was just really happy about being part of that, like learning every day, right? Reading books. Like I was really happy about that. But then I felt like it got to a point where I felt like there was classes and there was things that I was learning that I wasn't really interested in, and that really irritated me. That turned me off so much. Like I just didn't want to think about, like, I don't know, like history and political science. I know that they're important, but to me they weren't. It's that simple. I wasn't interested. I didn't find the passion of learning that. So I got to a point where I was really at two places, right? Like I love my athletic training classes and my clinical side and practicing that, but then I had to take these other classes that were required to graduate. And so because of that, I started to hate school, the system of school. So then when I graduated, I was so excited. I was like, okay, now I can do assignments, I can do homework, I can read, but only the things that I want. And then that's where BrownLab Media and Active Variable came to life, because I had these thoughts in my head for the last few years, but I didn't have the time to create them. And finally, they came to life because I had the time and the freedom to just learn what I wanted to learn. But I think, that again, that it's important to like pay attention to your curiosities and your interests, and then diving deeper into them and just really telling yourself, okay, let me try this for a few days, and if I don't like it, then I'll move on to something else. But at least taking that risk and that chance to try it out and see if you like it or not, it's important.
Yeah, and I think to find that discipline, like you were done with school. There was nobody who told you to do that homework. There's nobody who told you to do any of that stuff. And that's similar like how I see Sam sometimes. It's like nobody told you to get up at 5 a.m. Nobody told you to get up at 3 a.m. to do your work, but you're doing it. And that's what sets, I feel like, a lot of people apart, right? Like you figured out what you wanted to do, and you decided to dive into that, and you decided to kind of give yourself your own homework, your own assignments. And like, I don't know, I just think that there's not a lot of people who do that. And so the ones who do, my curiosity just sparks like, what is it that made you want to do that? That makes you do that every day. And that's just like, that's so important.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what I try to teach now that I'm older and I work with, the basketball kids or my sister or whoever, right? Even people that are older, sometimes I try to just kind of explain to them the things that I'm doing with the hope that I throw in a little bit of inspiration so they can pursue their own dreams as well.
Yeah. It's always interesting too, because it's like, you're finding your niche, you're finding your passion, but not every day is like amazing, and it's like, how do I battle adversity on the daily for me specifically, because I'll spend like a half hour to an hour writing and perfecting, doing little tweaks on a song, and it ends up being worse than I left it. And I'm just like, I gotta sit with that because I gotta go to work. And I'm like bummed, but I'm like, it's all right. Get, that mental process in your head that's just kind of like, that it's okay, it's gonna be okay. You just chill out, and when you get home, you're gonna write down notes now when you have a chance, and then when you get home, you're gonna implement them, and it's gonna be, you're gonna figure it out. And I think that's really really big character building skills that you learn along the process of following a path and following something that you believe in. So
yeah, definitely. Like one thing that I've been doing in the past 2 months is investing in the stock market. And I've been super focused on that and learning as much as I can and reading books and all that. The biggest thing that I learned though is that you can lose a lot easier than you can win. And it's crazy because like I have like 2-3 good trades where I win some money, and then I have like it's a stair, right? And then I have one loss where it's an elevator going down. But I feel like it's taught me so much about life as well, and also just how to control my emotions, right? Because it's exciting when you're winning and you're like, oh, I figured this out. This is so easy. Why doesn't everybody do it, right? And then I get one bad, horrible one, and I lose all the games and even more. And then I'm just like, that's why people don't do it, right?
Yeah.
Because there's always losses. Like whatever's up has to come down somehow, right? And I think I see that in anything in life, right? People are born, people die, right? Like it's just life, ups and downs. And so I feel like for me, one thing that I like from the stock market is that it's teaching me how to balance my emotions even more. I felt like I've always been pretty calibrated, but now I get a burst of emotion and then another one and then another one. So I have to like be balanced as much as I can so I can think clearly about my next play. If I want revenge, like I lost and I want revenge, then I'm gonna get a bad entry and take another loss. And so I have to know when to step back and look at the bigger picture and just like recalibrate and like remember my foundation and my strategy, and then go back and then do it properly again. So it's been huge for me.
Yeah, no, I was going to say just exactly like football, right? You know, in the pros, right? You make a bad play and it's like, yo, like forget about it because the third down, you know, you got to just throw that out the window because if you get stuck on that, you're just going to let some guy burn you, you know, and so like that also is like, I relate to that when you were talking about that. It's definitely something that, like you said, just balancing and being able to just not focus too much into that mistake you made and just like, all right, okay, let's move forward. We can salvage this, you know, it's not over yet. Like, let's go, you know?
Yeah. And that's been my mentality with it. Let me have enough money to play another day. That's been my mentality for the past 2 months.
That's my mentality on life right there.
Yeah.
What do you always say? Live to fight another day.
Yeah, live to fight another day. You know?
Yeah. Like, and obviously with experience with anything, you get better. That's the goal.
Yeah.
You learn and you practice and you make less and less mistakes as you continue to learn and get better. And so that's my mentality with everything, especially with investing. It's just like, I know I'm a rookie. I know I'm going to lose. I'm playing against professionals in the stock market, you know, so they're out to get me.
Because it's literally strategy, you know, your strategy building, you know, and that's really interesting. Like chess, you know, like figuring out like, and it's like a constantly moving thing on every given day. So it's kind of like, it's like putting different defensive schemes together based on the new offensive opponent you get every week. How can I formulate my defense? What can I work with? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Like, let's survey the field. Let's figure this out, you know? So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. No, that's totally right, man. Everything that you said right now is what I've experienced in the last few weeks. Like, I realized that I'm not good at swing trading, which is like you buy one stock today, hoping that it goes up, and you're swinging it, meaning that you're going to sell it tomorrow or the next day or the following day, as opposed to day trading. Day trading is you buy it today, you sell it today in like 5 minutes or 1 minute or 20 minutes. So I realized that I'm not good enough to do the swing trading yet. That takes a little bit more technical skill to realize what the patterns are, and with this market, honestly, it's disgusting because of the elections and COVID. It's just completely up and down. But I realized that I'm not very good at swing trading, so I focused on day trading for now. Nice. And I've been having a lot more success with that.
Awesome. No, that's awesome. You know, you're realizing that, you know. Can't wait to see where you are in like a year or two even, you know, like, oh man.
And so my picture with this is just, I want to use the money from investing to help BrownLab Media, right? To support other artists like yourself and Active Variable. That's my other source of income that I hope one day I can make and provide for my other projects.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like finding that multiple streams. that's so important. But
Yeah.
it's so, like, for me, like, thinking about that, that's so scary because nothing is in your control, like you said, with COVID and just elections and everything. Like, are you constantly watching the news then too to see, like, if any catastrophic thing happens and then this goes up and down?
So yes, I'm usually plugged in. Like I go on Twitter every once in a while to pay attention to the news. But for the most part, there's a pre-market, right? From at least from on my end, 6 a.m. to 6:30 is the pre-market, and then 6:30 is when everything opens up, and then it goes all the way to 1 p.m. 1 p.m. the market closes, and then you got the aftermarket. So for me, again with day trading, I realized that from 6:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. those are the times when there's the most volume, when the most people are in. Then there's lunchtime, right, in the East Coast. So it dies down, volume dies down. And then the last 10 minutes before the market closes, it spikes up again in volume. So realizing that, I realize where I need to put my time in as opposed to being on for 8 hours all day. I'm not a professional investor or trader, so I'm not going to spend all day trading. So I limited myself time so then I can do other things throughout the day. But I study during the pre-market. That's when I'm paying attention to any breaking news. That's when I'm looking at any of the technical analysis that I want to use. Like if, for example, Apple has a catalyst. For example, they just scheduled an event for November either 12th or 20, where they're going to talk about how they are not going to have this certain chips on their computers. Like they're changing the chips they're going to have on their computer. So they're going to have this event to show what that's going to look like. So I know that's a catalyst. I know that when that event is coming up, people are going to start to buy in because they're going to want to get, the best price for that stock when that event happens. And usually what happens is they sell as soon as, so it's called buy the rumor, sell the news. So as soon as the event starts, everybody just sells because it's over. Like whatever the event's happening, we don't care no more. So I pay attention to news for that, for the catalyst, and then I do my technical analysis. Like I'm looking at support, resistance, I'm looking at price changes, I'm looking at patterns. So it's a steep learning curve. There's a lot to learn, but I'm obsessed with it. I love it. I'm thinking about it all the time, and so that's been taking a little bit of my time in the past 2 months. But it's just something I enjoy doing. So.
Yeah, I mean, your interest and your passion is like 80% of the battle. If you love it and you come to what you wake up early and you just always want to just learn about it, I mean, you're really setting yourself up for success. Like that's like that, that mindset.
Yeah.
So definitely interested to check back with you and learn and see how much you've grown in that specific area too, as well as everything that you're doing as well.
For sure. Yeah. No, it's been awesome talking to you guys.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like we always have good conversations.
Yeah, definitely. It's been nice because I feel like the first time, like, since we met you, I always get weary about like meeting people and like doing collabs, to be honest, because we've had so many people I want to say like so many people. I want to say like maybe half a dozen people reach out and say like, I want to do collab. But you're our first collab. Because I think just kind of sitting down, having a Zoom with you and like connecting with you in that way, and I was like, wow, we all really got along. Our conversations really take off every single time we have one. And just kind of that mindset like you're talking about right now, you found something you're interested in, you dive in and you have this like obsession. And I think that that's something we can all relate to. And just having like this.
But it's obsession with a purpose.
Yeah,
because he has
true.
A goal for it, which is dope. It's not just like, I'm just going to go, I just love making computers now. Now I just love
that's true.
Playing, going snowboarding, so it's nice to have that big picture, like you said, in mind.
Yeah. And so just all of this stuff combined, I was like, we found a good match.
Yeah.
Especially for collabing and like just going back and forth. And communication, I feel like, is half the battle, especially just kind of like we can't obviously meet you in person. I'm sure one day we will, but just meeting even through Zoom and Skype and things like that. And you can feel somebody out and you can kind of understand where they are, their mindset, and, feel out how they communicate, and then you can kind of make those decisions. Because I remember getting off our first Zoom call and just sitting back and talking to Sam. I was like, all right, I think we did like really well. I think like he's a perfect fit, and I think all of this could work together. And then fast forward, like I don't even know how many months. I think we started talking the beginning of summer Was it maybe?
Yeah, it was before I left to the Raiders. Must have been like June,
Okay.
May, June. No, actually, yeah, no, I think so.
Yeah. It just like fast forward to all these conversations and everything, and I love it. And now we have like this shirt, and now we're about to launch it, and I'm super excited, and I'm just like, all right, we're just trying to get all these pieces together, and I think we have actually everything now, I want to say.
I think so.
So
probably.
I'm like, okay, do we do it Wednesday or Thursday, or just trying to like figure all that stuff out. But this is really exciting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, we're both supporting each other in a certain way, right? Like you guys have your own visualization of what you want with your brand, and then I have my own, but I think there's a way that we can coexist
Yes.
and mix a little bit and bring our like visions together to create something. And I've always been huge on like trying to build my own like e-commerce stuff as well, and it's something that I've tried in the past, creating websites and looking at drop shipping and all that, but I guess I didn't really find the passion in it, and I dropped it. And so, again, with you guys, I felt like I saw that with you guys. I saw the passion and in the details that you guys put into your product. So that's why I felt good about reaching out and like, yeah, these guys know what they're doing, and they've been doing it for a long time. And it got me, to call you guys and reach out.
Yeah, no, definitely creating a symbiotic relationship.
For sure. Cool. Well, it's been great.
Yeah, thanks
Yeah.
for taking the time to talk to us too. I know it's so funny, like the time difference. I was gonna say it's getting late, but not really for you. What time is it there?
It's 5:51 right now,
Okay.
and yeah, it's early for me, but time did change, so it's dark out now. Which
Oh
sucks.
wow, at 5.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense though.
Yeah.
Kind of, it started to get dark around like 5 here too. No.
I haven't been outside since it changed.
Oh.
But yeah, thanks for taking time, and this is really fun, and I definitely want to do another one with you too, and kind of like dive into like your identity and like how you grew up and all of those things too, because I kind of want to
Definitely.
take this. I don't want it to always, like you said, it doesn't necessarily, our podcast don't have to always be about adoption, and I wanted to kind of go into identity and to just look at different cultures and not even just people in general and how they were raised versus how we were, and just to kind of see that mentality too.
Yeah, I'm all in, definitely. Let's plan for that.
Nice.
Good.
All right. So, with that being said, have a good afternoon, and yeah,
We'll talk to you soon.
yeah,
Sounds good. Yeah. Thank you guys as well. Enjoy the rest of your night.
will do.
And hopefully this product launch goes smooth and people enjoy the shirts.
Definitely,
Absolutely.
definitely.
We'll keep you tuned in.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye bye.